Game, he went 6 in the third innings, gave up only 3 hits and allowed no runs to the Mets, but the Mets eventually won that ball game by a score of 3-2.
The lineup for New York tonight: Vince Coleman, the center fielder, will lead it off, followed by Tommy Herr at second base, batting second. First baseman Dave Magadan will bat third. Hubie Brooks. Now, they weren't supposed to. They weren't sure whether Hubie was going to start tonight, but his left foot is fine. He had hammered a foul ball off of that foot, but he's okay right now, so he's starting in right field tonight. Howard Johnson will play third base and bat fifth. Kevin McReynolds, the left fielder, hitting sixth. Kevin Elster in the lineup, batting seventh tonight. Charlie O'Brien, the catcher, hitting eighth, and Ron Darling, the pitcher, batting ninth.
And the defense for the Philadelphia Phillies. Kruk is at first. Morandini, the second baseman, just brought up from Scranton Wilkes-Barre. This is his first start this year. Booker is the shortstop. Charlie Hayes will be at third. Von Hayes in left field, Dykstra in center, and Murphy in right. The catcher, Steve Lake, and leading off for the Mets, Vince Coleman. Coleman hitting .255. No home runs, 5 runs batted in. He has 7 stolen bases and 8 attempts, and Grimsley's first pitch, a called strike. Coleman's on-base percentage, .397. He has 11 walks. And a ball call, so the count 1 ball and 1 strike. The Mets 8-5 in the year. They have won 2 in a row. The Pirates also at 8-5. They have won 3 straight. And the Philadelphia Phillies 4-9. They are 4 games out. And again, the breaking ball.
One of those Pirate losses, when they came from behind, they were trailing the Chicago Cubs by 5 the other night. I say the other night, it was an afternoon game, but it was such a long game, they end up winning the game 12-11, scoring 6 in the bottom of the 10th inning. Remarkable.
That is a fantastic finish. In that game, Andre Dawson had a grand slam home run in the top of the inning.
That was his second in 3 days.
Two and 1 the count, and now 3-1 as Vince Coleman works the count his way. Just checked on wild pitches for a season. What is the major league record? And it's unbelievable.
That's 1886. 64 wild pitches by Bill Stemmeyer of Boston.
The catcher must have stood behind the pitcher in those days.
Modern record, though, is only 24 by Jack Morris back in Detroit with that split finger fastball back as early as 1987, or as late as 1987.
And we mentioned that Grimsley already has 7, and this is his 4th game start. And the ball hit to the third baseman, Charlie Hayes, to throw over to first for the out. So Coleman thrown out by Charlie Hayes at third base. The umpires for this game, John McSherry, not Big John anymore. He's lost a whole lot of weight, about 80 pounds. Bob Davison at first base, Jerry Lane, the umpire at second, and Tom Hallion, the umpire at third. Now for the Mets, it'll be Tommy Herr batting second in the lineup. Tommy Herr hitting .206. He does have 12 walks to go along with his base hits and an on-base average of .396. The Mets lead the National League in walks as a team with 72, an average of 5.5 a game. In their last in hitting at .221, they do have 9 home runs, and they lead the league in stolen bases with 23. Tommy Herr with 3 of those 23 stolen bases. And Grimsley's slider. Ball 2, 2 balls and no strikes. That pitch might be a cut fastball.
It's that cut fastball that Grimsley throws. He puts the pressure on the middle finger, and it has that movement in toward the left-hander and away from the right-hander.
Born in Cleveland, Texas. And there's ball 3. Lives right there. Graduate of Tarkington High School. Didn't pitch the last 2 years because of injuries, but was able to play shortstop. As a 12-year-old, he lost a big left toe in a motorcycle accident. And the count goes to ball 4. Make that the first base runner for the New York Mets. So Herr picks up his 13th walk. He is now tied for the league lead with McGriff of San Diego with those 13 walks. And the Mets have a base runner with 1 out and Dave Magadan batting.
If you're a Mets hitter, you almost have to take a strike. I mean, you can, by taking a strike, you're not giving away too much. So you go up to the plate knowing the pitcher that you're facing is wild. 12 walks in 12 innings so far, and all those wild pitches.
And that pitch, a ball, Lake having trouble handling the pitch. It's ball 1. Grimsley, in his first start against the Mets this year, had a career high of 9 strikeouts in 6 1/3 innings.
He had the good curveball going that day, too.
He has good stuff. It's just a matter of getting it over the plate. Last year with the Phillies, 3-2. He also was at Scranton Wilkes-Barre, where he was 8-5. For a good-sized lead at first, he draws the throw. Magadan batting 200 so far this year. No home runs, 4 runs batted in. And he takes the pitch for a ball, and it's 2 balls and no strikes. So the Mets making Grimsley work, and now we're going to have a visit to the mound.
It's so funny, a young pitching staff with the pitching coach, one of the big money pitchers in the history of the game, Johnny Padres, pitched so many big games for the Dodgers. So courageous, so gutty. His control was so good, and now he's the pitching coach of a team that wouldn't say, you know, they're courageous, but they just can't throw strikes. A lot of times people say the team really doesn't have any guts. Jim Fregosi, I'll tell you, has a lot of guts. I'll tell you that.
Fine baseball player, of course, played with the Mets for a short period of time, known more for the fact that he was in the Nolan Ryan trade, coming to the Mets for Nolan Ryan and 3 other players from the California Angels. 2-0 pitch, and it's ball 3.
The point I was trying to make, Ralph, and you've heard these allegations many, many times, if a guy goes out there, if he's got great stuff on the sidelines, and he goes out there and he can't throw strikes, a lot of people say that he doesn't have any courage. I don't think courage has anything to do with it. I think it's just a matter of a guy becoming comfortable enough to pitch in the big leagues, or to hit in the big leagues, or to play in the big leagues.
A lot of the psychological,
Sure. It's not that a guy lacks courage, he lacks control.
If he didn't have any courage, he wouldn't be out there.
Right.
It's tougher to pitch when you are having problems being wild, and if you can get the ball over when you want. 3-1 pitch, the runner goes, but it's ball 4, and the Mets now have runners at first and second, back-to-back walks. And the fans here turning the heat on.
And if you think the Phillies are having problems, well, the Mets aren't having problems, but they're having the oddest of years. You mentioned their walks. They've now walked 74 times as a team. It's just a very odd year. They're last in hitting in the National League. Of the 26 teams in the big leagues, the Mets are 23rd. 221 team average. Here they are, 8-5. Pardon me, Ralph.
First pitch is strike. The irony of the whole thing is the Mets, with 72 walks and last in hitting at 221, have left more men on base. It hasn't been because they've been hitting their way on. It's because they've been walking their way on. You'll be at 290 for the year. 3 home runs, 6 RBIs. Back in action after being out of action for 3 ball games in Montreal after he fouled the ball off his instep of his left foot in Pittsburgh. He's got that shield on his foot, that guard, sort of like a catcher's guard. And he goes after the cut fastball. It's in the strike zone, and it's 1-2. Ackersley throwing in the bullpen. Darrell Ackersfield throwing in the bullpen. One and two the count. Way outside. That time the curveball, and it's 2-2.
If he throws the cut fastball that goes away from a right-hander and the curve that goes away, you give up the inside part of the plate right now and look away. And Hubie Brooks can do that as well as any right-handed hitter in the National League.
They shed him toward right field. The 2-2 pitch on the ground up the middle. A diving stop by Booker. They get the forced play. And on the great play by Booker, the Phillies save a run.
Dickie Thon, the Phillies' regular shortstop, was supposed to start tonight. He was a late scratch due to a leg injury. And this often happens. A guy comes to the ballpark, he doesn't expect to play, called into action about 10 minutes before game time, and comes up with an early sparkling play. Rod Booker, the shortstop.
So the Mets with runners at first and third. The Phillies with 2 men out. And the batter's Howard Johnson. Good play by Booker, the utility infielder for the Philadelphia Phillies. Johnson hitting .206 with 2 home runs, 9 runs batted in, and he checks out the cut fastball. It's ball 1. Center fielder Dykstra very shallow in center. And the cut fastball once again. The foul ball puts the count at 1-1.
I think you can afford to play guys that have the type of power that Howard Johnson has shallow. And the reason is his home runs are high fly balls.
And they go.
They go, right. So the things you try to take away from him, he's not a low liner type of home run hitter like, for instance, Henry Aaron was. Or you were. You were that type of hitter. You never had the lift. You had to lift enough to get it over the fence. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're cutting off the line drive single that might drop in if you play deep.
Right. A guy like Darryl Strawberry with those long, lofting home runs, not the liners.
There's the curveball. 2 balls, 1 strike. So far, Jason Grimsley hasn't thrown a ball that's been straight. Every one of his fastballs have been cut. Al Worthington, who used to pitch in the major leagues, couldn't throw a ball straight. Everything broke away from a right-hand batter.
Al Worthington, for a time, the baseball coach at Liberty College. I think Bobby Richardson's down there now.
And the pitch back to Johnson, the fastball high, and it's 3-1. So Johnson in the driver's seat with a 3-1 count. 2 men out, runners at first and third. We're just underway here at Vet Stadium. 1-3 with the Philadelphia Phillies. Jason Grimsley, the pitcher. And there's that cut fastball. It's ball 4. So the Mets have loaded the bases on 3 walks. That'll bring up Kevin McReynolds, who has had only 1 hit so far this year.
That last pitch could have been a strike, but you're not going to get those borderline pitches when you're wild. Umpires zero in on a zone, and they'll give you that pitch off the plate if you're always there. But when you're wild, you don't get it.
So the base is loaded, and the first pitch is in there for a called strike. McReynolds 1 for 21 so far this year. He has yet to drive in a run. And he takes ball 1. McReynolds had his 5th Grand Slam home run off Mike Morgan last year after an intentional walk to Darryl Strawberry. And he lays off the high fastball. 2 balls, 1 strike. With the bases loaded, McReynolds with 17 hits and 31 at-bats, hitting .548 in his major league career. And he hits a high fly ball to left. Underneath the ball is Vaughn Hayes, and he makes the catch. So the Mets load up the bases on 3 walks and do not score. After 1/2 inning, the Mets nothing. The Phillies coming up, and here's a word from Manufacturers Hanover. On the mound for the Mets, Ron Darling, 0-1 in the year. He has an earned run average of 3.38. This will be his 3rd game start. He's worked 13 in the 3rd innings.
And the lineup for the Mets, Lenny Dykstra leading it off, the ex-Met. Shortstop Rod Booker batting 2nd. John Crook, the first baseman, hitting 3rd. Dale Murphy in right field batting 4th, followed by Vaughn Hayes, the left fielder. 3rd baseman Charlie Hayes hitting 6th. Mickey Morandini, the 2nd baseman, batting 7th. Steve Lake, the catcher, hitting 8th. And Jason Grimsley, the pitcher, batting 9th.
And Lenny Dykstra stepping into the batter's box, hitting .314 for the year. 1 home run, 4 runs batted in. He takes the first pitch for a call for ball 1. Lenny Dykstra, the former New York Mets player, last year hit .325, 4th in the National League. In the month of May last year, he hit .436 with 44 base hits, and he takes ball 2. He had a career high in hits last season with 192. Also runs batted in with 60, walks with 89, stolen bases with 33, and his on-base average led the league at .418. He also scored 106 runs. Tied for first in the National League in the count 2-1-2.
Lenny had such a good May last year that the Philadelphia Inquirer, the morning paper here in Philadelphia, started a Dykstra watch every day. You know, the New York Times now has DiMaggio and Williams going back 50 years ago when DiMaggio hit the 56 straight. Williams hit .406. Well, the Inquirer ran a daily version of that last year, a Dykstra watch.
2-2 for Lenny Dykstra. Dykstra, when he came to the Phillies in 1989, hit only .222 in 90 ball games. But then last year he exploded with his career year. Hamlin called the ball, so it goes to 3-2. Darling lifetime 10-8 against Philadelphia. His lifetime record 94 wins and only 65 losses. Tremendous winning percentage. And it's in the air to center. Coleman off and running, can't get to it. He plays it on the hop, and Dykstra leads off with a single. Coleman playing a very deep center field against Dykstra.
Yep, we've talked about it in other broadcasts. Vince Coleman, new position to him, even though he had played it some in the minor leagues. But when Len Dykstra hits a ball like this, a pitcher looks back and says, this ball's got to be caught. Vince wasn't even close to it. And I'm sure the Mets bench will be keeping an eye on him. And sometimes you try to move outfielders in, and they don't move in. They don't like it when they have to move in.
A lot more field to cover in center, and your security is to be deeper. But with his speed, he can play shallow.
Right.
Now the batter, Rod Booker, hitting .313. He hits a ground ball, should be a double play. Elster turns it. And after the single by Dykstra, Booker grounds into a double play.
Tommy Herr was involved in more double plays than any other National League second baseman last year, 94. And there are few around that, when it comes to the double play ball, that are as adept as Tommy Herr. His positioning superb. He always positions himself properly to turn the double play, and the nice soft toss to Elster there.
And the double play brings up John Crook, hitting .294 for the year, with 3 home runs and 13 runs batted in. He takes one ball, no strikes. The pitch back. Ball 2. And it's fouled off. Crook last year hit .291 for the Phillies with 7 home runs. He has never been hit by a pitch ball. Something like 640 games. Make it about 645 games. And a ball call. 3 balls, 1 strike. Crook, I should say, is a left field hitter. 53 of his 129 hits were hit to left field. The Mets play him as though he were a right-handed pull hitter, and he fouls off the fastball. So Crook with a count of 3-2.
John from Kaiser, West Virginia. We used to talk about the probability of Crook and Dykstra being teammates, and here they are united. Crook coming over from San Diego, and Len Dykstra coming, of course, from the Mets. Two rather animated hitters, I would say. There's Lenny.
They're like brothers. Topped out for Darling. He has an easy play. And that ends the inning. So a base hit, a double play, no one left. The score at the end of 1. The Mets nothing and the Phillies nothing. And here's a word from your tri-state Lincoln Mercury dealer. A quote for the night: a baseball team is like a vampire. You always have to feed it new blood, and that's what they've done here in Philadelphia. Davey Johnson, the deposed manager of the Mets back at the end of May last year when Buddy Harrelson took over. And Jim Fregosi now managing the Philadelphia Phillies as Kevin Elster takes the first pitch for ball 1. Elster hitting .333, 7 home runs, 21 RBIs. Make that 2 home runs and 7 RBIs. Kevin Elster playing shortstop tonight. And the cut fastball top right out to the mound. So an easy out as Elster goes down. That'll bring up Charlie O'Brien. Well, the Phillies 4-9, changing managers after 13 games, but not the earliest change in the history of the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies back in 1960 had a manager by the name of Sawyer.
Eddie Sawyer.
Eddie Sawyer, who after the first game of the season quit. Andy Cohen took over, and then Gene Mock started his managerial career in the major leagues.
Wasn't it that famous Sawyer quote about being 49? And the reason he quit is that he wanted to live to be 50.
He took one look at the 1960 Philly team and he said, 1 game is enough.
Yeah, I think a year later the Phillies lost 23 in a row. I believe that was 61 with Gene Mock. Yeah.
So Charlie O'Brien flies out to center, 2 men away, and that'll bring up Ron Darling. So
I'll tell you, now that's pressure. If you say you're quitting a job and you're 49 years old and the reason you're quitting is you want to live to be 50, that's pressure. That's tension. That means the job is a little too much for you, and I think you should step down. That certainly wasn't the case with Leyva here today.
No, he sort of went protesting. And he's not at all in the organization. He's out of the entire organization.
Right.
He still gets his money. And I believe he has another year to go on his contract.
I think you're right. Here's Jim Fregosi, the new blood of the Phillies.
All-star shortstop. Gold Glove winner. Started his career with the 1961 California Angels. He was in the expansion draft. And he was taken out of the Boston Red Sox organization. And Darling puts a good move on it. Hits it to deep left center. Dykstra back, can't get to it. And it's 1 hop off of the wall. So Ron Darling, 1 for 5 coming in, doubles with 2 men out.
Well, the Mets, we talked about their team average, 221. I guess it would figure that the pitcher, Ron Darling, would get the first hit of the ball game. Darling, a good hitting pitcher. Now 2 for 6 on the year. That's the 5th Mets hit for their pitching staff. So they have a 221 team batting average, and 5 of those hits early in the season are by pitchers.
That'll bring up Vince Coleman, and he takes for ball 1. Mets loaded up the bases in the first and didn't score when they had 3 walks, and now the first hit picked up by the Mets. Coleman grounded out his first time up, and he fouls it back. 1 ball, 1 strike. Jason Grimsley, the pitcher, 0-2 in the year. Curveball in the dirt. And a good job by Steve Lake to save Grimsley his 8th wild pitch.
The reason that Steve Lake is in the game, and it's a terrific play by Lake, watch what he has to do to stop this ball like a hockey goalie. The reason Steve is catching is that Darren Daulton took such a blow from Ray Lankford of the St. Louis Cardinals in a game-winning play on Sunday. Daulton was almost knocked out, didn't even remember the play, and is still woozy from, here it is, 2 days later.
Swing and a miss. I saw that play on TV, and I don't think Daulton will ever forget it, and somewhere down the line, Langford might have to pay for that.
Well, yeah, but you know, it was a clean play. The thing was Dickie Thon had waited so long at second base. I think Dickie really admittedly left him out to dry, and Daulton had to make that tag with the glove hand. It was a clean play, but hard play. I know what you're saying.
So the curveball gets Coleman. That ends the inning. The runner left in scoring position. That's 4 2 innings for the Mets on 1 base hit. And the score at the end of 1 1/2. The Mets nothing, the Phillies nothing. And here's a word from R.C. Cola. Of the second, no score. The Phillies coming up. First of 3 with Philadelphia as the Mets conclude the road trip, returning home against the Pittsburgh Pirates on Friday night. Inside at the vet. Dale Murphy will lead it off. Murphy hitting .217 for the year with 2 home runs and 6 runs batted in. Two-time MVP man back in 1982 and 1983. And Darling's first pitch topped out to the third baseman. Howard Johnson at third. The throw picked out of the dirt by Magadan. 1 pitch, 1 away. That'll bring up Von Hayes.
Ron Darling with 94 wins as a Met, and if he wins 6 more games in a Mets uniform, he will be the 4th Mets pitcher to win 100 games. Tom Seaver, Jerry Koosman, Dwight Gooden.
And the first pitch to Von Hayes, ball 1.
Rather remarkable when you consider that the Philadelphia Phillies have been in existence for 109 years, and they have only 5 pitchers that have won 100 games as members of the Phillies.
That either means their pitching was not too good or their trade abilities were very active.
Yeah, and you're talking about a franchise 109 years old that has won only 1 World Championship back in 1980 when they beat the Kansas City Royals and turned this town inside out.
Von Hayes at 222 and the split finger fastball. 1950, the Phillies with the Whiz Kids won the National League Championship and lost to the Yankees in the World Series.
Jim Constanti, their most valuable player with 23 saves that year, started the World Series.
Got beat 1-0. First game of that series.
They lost 4 in a row to the Yankees, but played 4 good ball games. Or at least 3 of those 4 were very, very close games.
There's the 1980 World Champions. One of the members of that 1950 Philly team up here in the broadcast booth for the Phillies, Richie Ashford, who also played for the Mets their first year in 1962, was the MVP of the Mets in 1962 when they lost 120 games, and he said, big deal, the MVP of a 120-game losing team. There's his number retired, Richie Ashburn, number 1. Should be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
Boy, he had so many great years for the Philadelphia Phillies, and there we see him underneath that chapeau.
The Ancient Mariner, there he is, doing the broadcast alongside of Harry Callis on Channel 29 here in Philadelphia. He is a very funny man.
Catalyst for Marv Throneberry back in 1962. There's Bud Harrelson, the manager of the Mets. As he looks on, Von Hayes on at first, Charlie Hayes the batter. Charlie Hayes hit him 152. Von Hayes with 2 stolen bases in 3 attempts. We'll see whether or not Jim Fregosi is a running type manager. O'Brien makes a good play, and it's ball 1.
Jim was the manager of the California Angels in 1979 when they won the Western Division of the American League, their first division winner.
And a very close personal friend of Gene Autry.
And Gene Mott. Good genes.
Boy, that's what you call having genes. The right kind to have. The Cowboy. Line drive right at her, a double play. So 2 double plays in the first 2 innings turned by the Mets. That ends the inning. And the score at the end of 2, it's the Mets nothing, the Phillies nothing. And here's a word from Macy. Top of the 3rd, no score. The Mets with Tommy Herr batting here in the vet. Tommy walked his first time up, and he takes the first pitch for ball 1. Tommy with 13 walks, now tied for the league lead in walks. Mets had the bases loaded in the first on walks and didn't score. And Darling with 2 men out doubled and was in scoring position, but was left at second when Coleman struck out. A strike call, 1-1. Jason Grimsley on the mound. His last outing a disaster against the St. Louis Cardinals. That was on the 20th. Goes after a bad pitch, a breaking ball, and Berg grounds out. So 1 away here in the top of the 3rd.
Take a look at the Macy's National League scoreboard. Other action in the National League this evening. Pittsburgh 2-1 over Montreal, top of the 3rd. Chicago at St. Louis, Cincinnati at Houston, Atlanta at Los Angeles, San Diego at San Francisco later on.
Pittsburgh and the Mets tied for 1st in the National League East with identical records of 8 and 5. And now Dave Magadan takes a curveball for a called strike. Talking about Grimsley's last outing as you look at Dave Magadan. It was against the Cardinals. He was a losing pitcher in the game won by St. Louis 12-1. Grimsley lasted 1/3 of an inning. And another ground ball to the second baseman, Morandini. 2 men away.
Take a look at the American League scoreboard. So far, all games with the exception of Seattle at California are underway. 1-0. New York over Detroit at the stadium in the 2nd inning. Also in the 2nd, 4-0 Kansas City over Cleveland. No score Toronto at Boston. 2-0 Milwaukee over Texas in the 2nd. Oakland at Minnesota just underway. No score. Same Baltimore at Chicago at New Comiskey Park. And Seattle at California a little later on.
And the curveball to Brooks taken for a called strike. He'll be grounded into a force play his first time up. And this one fouled away. And our own Tim McCarver was a broadcaster in that new ballpark.
I'll tell you, it is really a state-of-the-art ballpark made only for baseball. The first, only baseball facility since Kansas City had their stadium built back in 1972. Really a terrific ballpark. Holds 44,700. Right across the street from Old Comiskey, which is being demolished under the hammer.
Another couple of years, it would have fallen down. That pitch next, Hubie Brooks, so he gets on. And let's again have a base runner.
And no intent there. Ralph, you were talking about the 1/3 of an inning that Grimsley pitched in St. Louis. Not only did he walk 5, but he hit 2 batters. This is the 3rd hit batsman of the year for Jason Grimsley.
That'll bring up Howard Johnson. Howard walked his first time up. Brooks, the runner at first base. He has 1 stolen base this year, and that was the steal of home on the front end of a double steal. And that's ball 1.
At that new Comiskey Park, they have a kids' corner, and every adult must be accompanied by a child.
I like that.
And they sell peanut butter and jelly sandwiches there. Isn't that beautiful?
See where Detroit's looking for a new ballpark. They say that they can't make it in the old ballpark. It just doesn't have the facilities. Another ball call.
Detroit, as a matter of fact, the scuttlebutt around Chicago with Detroit playing the White Sox was that an announcement would be made this week that the Tigers will build a stadium in downtown Detroit. Of course, it's only rumor, unofficial, but that's what we heard.
Both Detroit and Fenway Park in Boston opened the same day in the same year. And that was the day the big shipwreck that took place. Titanic went down that day, so neither got the headlines. The Titanic got all the play.
2 parks went up and the Titanic went down.
Right off of the glove, but deflected right at Booker. That will end the inning. So the Mets with a runner left, and the score at the end of 2.5 innings, the Mets nothing, and Philadelphia nothing. Now here's a word from your Tri-State Dodge dealer.
Walk home after that.
And it's 2-1. Incidentally, Larry Boa, the third base coach, and all the coaches have been retained by Jim Fregosi. Boa, of course, a potential as a manager, was a manager at San Diego.
So was Hal Lanier.
Hal Lanier, a manager.
John Vukovich, certainly a viable candidate.
Came close to managing the Cubs, but because of the transfer of the general managership, he lost that chance. There you see Vukovich.
Vuk actually had the job the morning that Dallas Green was fired. Dallas Green was fired at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or so, and then Vukovich wasn't fired. He just wasn't hired as the manager because nothing was in writing.
So Grimsley goes back to the bench. No bunt attempt there. And the fans here are saying, hey, let's play it by the book as they get on Fregosi. So 1 away. First strikeout by Ron Darling, and he'll bring up the dangerous Lenny Dykstra. Dykstra singled his first time up. Dykstra with 17 hits so far this year. Tony Gwynn leads the National League with 21. Went 4 for 4 Sunday. Good split finger fastball, struck 1, and Dykstra looking for more than just a single in that one.
When you look at Morandini and Dykstra, you see a resemblance. Of course, Lenny a lot bigger than Morandini, but Morandini looks like kind of a Len Dykstra when he was in high school.
Before he lifted all those weights.
Yeah.
Dykstra really has bulked up. Mets said a double played there. And that's taken for a ball, and it's 1-1. Last year, Dykstra hit .427 of runners in scoring position. He had some sort of year. It's ball 2. 2 balls and 1 strike. Well, Al Stoudemire, the pitching coach of the Mets. His staff leading the National League in earned run average at 2.59. The manager of the Mets, a teammate with Jim Fregosi on the Mets back in the early 70s.
Both shortstops, but of course Fregosi was moved to third base after the Nolan Ryan trade for the 72 season.
And this is split finger again. That puts the count at 3-1. Making a good stop.
Ron Darling's best pitch now, but if hitters are patient and make him throw strikes, they're very effective, and that's what Dykstra was doing. For that split finger fastball to be effective, you have to stay ahead. You have to throw early strikes if you expect the hitters to go after the pitches with 2 strikes on them.
That's a strike there. Good pitch, and it's 3-2. Dykstra makes good contact. Darling's not a strikeout pitcher.
Ronnie gets the call there. Good low strike. So you see if Jim Fregosi sends Steve Lake, the runner at first base.
And that's how the first baseman back of the runner. They expect him to be running. Goes, and the ball lined at the shortstop. Another double play. So the Mets will have turned their third double play in 3 innings, and they get out of the jam. The score at the end of 3. The Mets nothing, the Phillies nothing. Now here's a word from Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. This game is brought to you in part by New York Daily News. We're back. Buy us. And by your Nissan dealers, who challenge you to find a better car or a better deal. While checking out the National League leaders in hitting, we see that there are 3 catchers in the top 4 spots. And
oh, yeah.
While we go to the top of the 4th, another catcher to bring you the play-by-play, Tim McCarver.
I'll tell you a story about that as Kevin McReynolds steps up. And the Philly fanatic steps out. There's Kevin. Kevin flied to left with the bases loaded and 2 outs. Back in the first inning, and he takes ball 1 from Jason Grimsley. A scoreless game here in the 4th inning. Popped up and playable as Steve Lake with the mask off makes the catch. 1 away. I guess everybody has one of those dream years, Ralph, where you can't wait to get to the ballpark, and mine was 1967. And on August 4th, I was leading the league in hitting, batting .355, and Pittsburgh was in town, and Roberto Clemente, when you play against a guy like Clemente, you can't help but idolize the guy. I mean, you have so much respect for him. And they wanted me to take a picture with him at Busch Stadium as McReynolds takes ball 1. And I told him, I said, or Elster takes ball 1, pardon me, 1-0. I told Clemente before the thing, I said, I feel so funny taking a picture with a hitter as great as you. And he was so nice about it. He said, why? He said, you've been doing well. He said, you deserve this picture. And I never forgot the compassion that he showed me. And here I'd been in the league about 5 years, and Clemente, of course, had been in since the middle 50s. Ball 2, 2-1. And when he died in 1972, I couldn't help but think of that time when he was so nice. He was a nice man, and more than that, boy, could he play. Ooh, reeked with class. Elster walks. That's the 4th walk given up by Jason Grimsley, but still a scoreless ball game as Charlie O'Brien comes up, and Steve Lake goes out to talk to Grimsley.
Came up in 1955, and he was hidden in the Dodger organization. They thought they had hit him well enough that nobody would draft him, and the Pirates said, no, we know how good he is, even though he didn't play at Montreal to any degree, and they drafted him.
Kind of like a similar situation when George Bell was drafted out of the Philadelphia Phillies organization back in 1980 by the Toronto Blue Jays. And here Bell signing with the Cubs as a free agent. What an offense those Cubbies are going to have this year. Ball and no strikes now to Charlie O'Brien.
Cubbies have lost their last 4 ball games. They've lost some beauties, haven't they?
If they get any pitching at all, they should be the favorites here in the National League East, as the fastball to O'Brien is high. 2 balls and no strikes. And here comes Johnny Padres again.
We talked a little bit about Johnny Padres earlier. I hit against him at the end of my career. He had one of the great changes of all time. And of course, he won that 7th game in the World Series against the Yankees in 1952 to give the Brooklyn Dodgers their first World Championship ever. 1955.
I was talking to Johnny over at Shea Stadium, and I didn't know it, but Charlie Dressen was the guy who taught him the changeup.
He was an infielder.
In the spring of 1952. He knew that Padres threw hard, and Padres had never tried a changeup before. He had a good fastball, good live arm, great curve. Charlie O'Brien now hits one to left field as Von Hayes is over. There are 2 outs. Can you imagine an infielder, a little plucky Charlie Dressen teaching Johnny Padres his changeup?
And he had a great one to go with that great fastball. Charlie Dressen, the manager, that said, "Hold them right there and I'll think of something."
Hold them for 7 and I'll think of something, huh?
Got fired because he was looking for a 2-year contract from Mr. Walter O'Malley of the Dodgers. He said, "No way we give 2-year contracts," and they never did until Tommy Lasorda came around. Years and years and years later.
And Walter O'Malley hired an unknown man by the name of Walter Alston back in 1954.
What did he have? Something like 17 one-year contracts?
23.
23, wasn't it?
So you look at Lasorda's 15 years, 38 years, the last 38 years, the Dodgers have had 2 managers. In that same time, the Phillies have had 22.
And the Phillies totally have had 44 managers.
Yep. Actually 40 over the last 45 years, the Phillies have had 22 managers. And over 38, the Dodgers have had 2. That's remarkable. Lifted to left field. In is Von Hayes. And he makes the play for the 3rd out. Still no score. Middle of the 4th. We're back after this from the New York Daily News. Nick Leyva, after 13 games that the Phillies have played this year. Jim Fregosi, the new manager. We're in the bottom of the 4th inning as Rod Booker leads it off. A bit of irony before the game tonight. Got to share this with you. Ralph, you were working on your notes in the whole bit as Booker takes ball 1. The Beverly Hills Middle School was here. The band, as they often do, have a band before the games here in Philadelphia. Elster makes the catch, 1 away. And guess what their last song was? Here it is. And I'm not telling this to be mean, but just the quirky irony of the evening. Their last song, they probably worked on this song for 6 weeks, a chance to play at the vet. Get a Job by the by the Coasters. Broke me up. But you know, they had no idea that they'd be playing that song on the night that a manager is fired, and ultimate irony is John Kruk steps up. No score here in the 4th. Ground ball, right side. Tommy Herr backhands it and throws out Kruk. 2 outs here in the 4th inning. That, by the way, that song, Get a Job, dethroned Danny and the Juniors at the Hop as the #1 song. I think it was 1957.
You know, what strikes me as being ironical is the fact that it's the Beverly Hills High School, and they're not in California.
No, Beverly Hills Middle School. I think it's Beverly Hills, Pennsylvania, I believe. Otherwise, why would it be Beverly Hills Middle School? Dale Murphy takes a breaking ball outside. Ball 1. 1-1 to Dale. 3 hits for the Phillies, 1 for the Mets. Popped up. Charlie O'Brien off with the mask, and it's about 10 rows back, right below us.
Starting throwing a lot more breaking balls this year than he has in the past. That was one of his different kind of curveballs. He usually throws what would be called a drop curve or an overhand curve. That one was sort of a slinging sidearm curveball, a little David Cone type curveball. Got away with it. He hung it, but it did have a lot of sharp break on it.
Trying to give the right-handers maybe a little different look. It's 2-2 to Murphy. 2 outs here in the 4th. No score. First of 3. And the Mets return home against Pittsburgh this weekend. Still 2-2 to Murphy.
Pittsburgh, and then the West Coast teams come in. Get a look at San Diego, San Francisco, and the Dodgers.
Darryl Strawberry's returned to Shea Stadium. And Wally Whitehurst will be tomorrow night's pitcher, charting the game. This one lifted to right field, playable. Hubie Brooks over. 3 up, 3 down for the first time for the Phillies in this game. Still no score after 4, and we'll be back after this from your Tri-State Dodge dealer. Coleman leads it off for the Mets here in the top of the 5th inning, scoreless ball game. The Mets 8-5 on the year. The Phillies 4-9. Vince Coleman on the evening is 0 for 2. He is grounded out and struck out. High, ball 1 from Jason Grimsley. One and 1 to Coleman. Fouled away. A ball and 2 strikes to Vince. Vince Coleman played under a new manager in the middle of the year last year as Joe Torre replaced Whitey Herzog. You haven't heard, Jim Fregosi, the new manager of the Philadelphia Phillies, replacing Nick Leyva. Breaking ball, he lays off of it, 2-2. 13 games into the season. I guess if you're looking for fairness and justice, you shouldn't be a baseball player or be a baseball manager, as the curve misses outside, 3-2.
Well, every manager starts out by saying, I'm really happy to have this job, and I know that when I take the job, I'm going to be fired sooner or later. Sort of goes with the territory. The only guy that beat the rap was Connie Mack for the Philadelphia Athletics, and he was never fired. But he had the one thing you have to have going for you. You have to be the owner at the same time. He owned the ball club and managed it.
Don't want to fire yourself. Now the Mets trying to fire themselves up right now with Coleman at first base and Tommy Herr the batter. One more stolen base to tie Davey Lopes. There goes Coleman, and he faked breaking, and now Coleman going to second. The throw backed up by Morandini. Now that's not going to be a stolen base. It's going to be a pass ball. But I think the fact that Coleman broke off of first base was the reason Lake missed the ball.
It certainly set it up because he's off the bag, and then Lake, in his haste to get to the ball, thinking that he was running because he started and stopped. And from this point, he's able to go on down to second and get second base. He scored as a pass ball, but he actually stole it 2 times.
Cat-like instincts by Vince Coleman. He's at second with nobody out. Grounded foul, just foul, as Herr rips one wide of first. It's 1-1 to Tommy Herr.
Last year, Lake, an outstanding receiver, threw out 61% of the runners trying to steal. Threw out 11 of the 18. That's a tremendous percentage when you figure that the average for a team in stolen bases is about a 70% average.
I think the average, that's about right, because the average for catchers throwing out last year, throwing runners out, about 32%. Grounded towards second, and Herr does his job as Coleman goes to third. And he's there with 1 out, and Dave Magadan coming up.
Well, all the arguments this year about Jeffries batting second in the batting order were brought about because Tommy Herr over his career has been an outstanding second place hitter, and that's what he can do best, is hit in that second slot, because he does pull the ball, gives himself up, gets a runner over, and takes a lot of pitches.
Greg Jeffries nursing a pulled rib cage muscle, by the way. That's why he's not in there tonight. And Grimsley winding up. Infield back. That's a little unusual here in the 5th inning. Scoreless game.
Well, probably the most debates you'll get about managing a ball club is when to play the infield in and when to play it back. Right here, Fregosi obviously thinking that you have the heart of the batting order up and he wants to stay out of a big inning. He's willing to give up a run.
Grounded by first. Kruk makes the play. He's going to come home. Now he steps on the bag. 1-0 Mets. Superb base running by Vince Coleman. And a great play by Kruk to prevent a double by Magadan. Man.
Well, it appears that Kruk didn't step on the bag right after he fielded the ball, because he gets up thinking about a throw home. He says he has no chance, and then he tags the bag. But it looked like he fielded the ball right on the bag. Right here, does he tag it? He doesn't. He could have tagged it with his glove right there with the ball in it and then thrown, but he never did, so he has to make sure 1 out. Coleman from that third base slot sees the ball hit, and then when he sees him dive, he goes.
That's a Coleman rally right there. They talk about Ricky rallies in Oakland. Well, on this coast, they're Coleman rallies. Here's that play by Kruk once again.
He says, well, I better get 1 out. So he steps on the bag.
Caught between a bag and a hard place. Curveball fouled off. Ball and 2 strikes to Hubie Brooks. 1-0 Mets.
That coming right down over Kruk's eyes. Well, he's a throwback to the old-time ball player right there. Love to watch him play. He plays with great intensity and is a fine player.
Hubie Brooks slices one to right center, but Dykstra's there, and he makes the play. The Mets score a run without a hit. Have to coin that a Coleman rally after 4.5. 1-0 New York, and we're back after this from Pan Am. Back in to call it for you. Here's Ralph.
Okay, Tim, and Von Hayes will lead it off, and he takes the first pitch. Strike 1. Hayes walked his first time up, hitting .222 for the year. No home runs, 7 runs batted in. Ron Darling has given up no runs on 3 hits. He's been helped out by 3 double plays. And the curveball, 1-1. One ball, 1 strike to Von Hayes. And the split finger for a ball, 2-1. You're watching Mets baseball, 91. on Universal 9, WWOR-TV, Secaucus, New Jersey. Mets leading 1-0, bottom half of the 5th inning. And that fastball just does miss. The Mets, when they have scored the first run in the ball game, have a record of 3-2 against right-handed starters. They're 4-3. Mets have played 5 extra inning ball games. Make that the Phillies have played 5 extra inning ball games. The Mets have played 3. Phillies in extra inning games. Two and 3. One of those extra inning games against the Mets. And Darling back with a fastball to pick up a strikeout, his second of the game. So Darling strikes out his first batter here in the 5th. The Mets leading 1-0, and Charlie Hayes will be the next batter. Charlie lined into a double play his first time up. And a strike. One ball, one strike. Charlie Hayes lives in Brooklyn, Mississippi. He was born in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Back with the fastball. 2-2 the count.
Nice cool summers down in that area.
Oh, yeah. Don't need any air conditioning at all there. This ball hit foul down the left field line, a long way, but foul by about 30 feet. Charlie Hayes homered in 3 consecutive games against Pittsburgh last year. He had only 10 home runs, but 3 of them in consecutive games against the Pirates. He did the same thing against the Pirates in '89. And this one fouled back out of play.
Charlie having a very difficult time waiting on Ron Darling.
He is really a fastball hitter.
Yeah.
Off-speed stuff, curveballs, and changeups get to him, and there's a fastball.
See him jump at the ball. That's one of the traits that hitters try to stay away from. Waiting and quick hands. 2 very important things in hitting, and you can see how that front hip opens up. Tough time waiting on the ball.
Brooks back and then in, and Charlie Hayes is out on a fly to right.
Sometimes a hitter doesn't realize how fast his hands are and how fast they can come through. And I think they try to compensate a lot of times by opening those hips early, pulling the shoulder out. And that's the worst thing you can do. It is so hard to wait. That was that 2-2 pitch. You can see those hips opening up. And that was after fouling all those balls off down the left field line.
Now the batter is Mickey Morandini, and he takes the first pitch for ball 1. Morandini singled his first time up. He's batting 1,000 in the major leagues this year. Had been at Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Hit .239 there with 1 home run and 9 runs batted in 12 games before coming up today. Fastball foul out.
The Scranton Wilkes-Barre Red Barons. That's a long title for your AAA team. By the time you get through it, the first inning's over. The Scranton Wilkes-Barre Red Barons, AAA affiliate of the Phillies.
Another foul ball. You know, they're listed in the book as the Scranton team. And I got many letters, and I'm sure you did too, about the fact that it is actually Scranton-Wilkes-Barre, and the people in Wilkes-Barre don't want to be left out. I don't blame them. They were a part of that Eastern League for many years when I played there, as a matter of fact. Scranton was a Red Sox farm club.
A lot of Mets fans up in the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre area because it's about equidistant from New York and Philadelphia, about 2 hours from New York City and about 2 hours from Philadelphia.
This ball hit hard to left field. McReynolds back there. Wilkes-Barre was a Cleveland farm club back in the 40s. So a 1-2-3 inning. That's 8 in a row for Ron Darling. The score at the end of 5. It's the Mets 1 and the Phillies nothing. Now here's a word from Nissan. Top of the 6th, the Mets leading 1-0. And it'll be Howard Johnson to lead it off. We just got a call from a celebrity of ours in New York. And if you'd asked me, I could have told you that, but you...
All right, now we've got Marty Noble in here, too. I did say the coasters, yes. Yes, I did. You did not tell me the silhouette, did you?
Oh, I'll tell you.
Well, I missed that.
You raised quite a commotion here. Phone calls from all over the nation, and sports writers coming in here.
A baseball announcer, not a disc jockey.
I mean, I've never... Listen.
Bob Clappish from the Daily News, Marty from Newsday.
Chicago Tribune put up their Dewey 1 if he had such a commotion. Johnson takes 1 ball, 1 strike. Howard has walked and grounded out in his 2 appearances.
I thought it was the Coasters that sang Get a Job in 1957. I was not only wrong about the group, I was wrong about the year. Don Imus and Mike Lupica calling, Bob Clappish delivering the message. Now Marty Nobles came in. It was the Silhouette that sang Get a Job in 1958.
Well, so, good thing that's not your job, telling those songs.
That's what I'd be singing, right? Get a job.
Get a job.
Can't slip anything by Don Imus.
In other words, don't give up your present job.
That's right. I've been told that many times.
Stuff.
Well, I was wrong last week. I said, well, talking about get a job. Jim Fregosi's got a job. He's the manager of the Phillies. I was wrong last week when I...
Well, that one I knew.
Yeah, erroneously said, Jimmy Webb wrote.
Used to be a ballpark right here.
Used to be a ballpark, right. And it was Joe Raposo. So I'm 0 for 2 over the last week.
You still got time to come out of your slump. So Johnson walks, and that is the 6th walk for the Mets in this game. They've had only 1 hit, a double by Darling. They lead 1-0, and Johnson leads it off with a walk, and that'll bring up Kevin McReynolds. Kevin 0 for 2.
I was right about Danny and the juniors, though.
You sure couldn't prove it by me. McReynolds 0 for 2, 1 for 23 at the start of the season. And he takes a call strike. Johnson talking with Tom Spencer, the first base coach of the Mets. Now leading off with an average lead. And a pitch out, but nothing on. Lake calling for the pitch out. Almost threw it in the strike zone.
Really, that was almost a pitch in. Watch Lake go out and the ball be back. If that pitch is down, it's over the corner.
And you can hit it.
Sure.
1-1 the count to McReynolds. Johnson draws a throw.
It's hard to call for a pitch out with a pitcher like Jason Grimsley, who has walked 6 in this game. He's hit a batter. And in his last start, he walked 5 in 1/3 of an innings and hit 2 batters.
Another ball, 2 balls and 1 strike. So the pitch out put him in the hole. Johnson, and the pitch is hit in the air. It'll be playable. Dykstra in center. Johnson holding up, now backtracking and going back to first on the catch. So they tried to break McReynolds out of the slump. Sometimes that works by having the batter hit and run. And with one out, it'll bring up Kevin Elster. Mike Cubbage, the third base coach. Elster 0 for 1 with a walk.
Ralph, I was down on the field to interview Jim Fregosi before the game for our opener, and Ron Darling had a great line about Kevin Elster.
And Elster's first pitch with a runner going. A curveball. It's in the dirt, and the throw is in the dirt. Johnson gets a stolen base.
Ojo's third stolen base of the year. He's tried it 4 times, made it 3 times. Great jump here, and a very difficult ball to throw by Steve Lake. He did all he could, but Johnson just had too good a jump. In there easily.
And the Mets leading the league in stolen bases. That's their 24th, and Elster hits it off the end of the bat.
Ron Darling was standing behind the screen, and he was looking at Kevin Elster hit before the game, and he said, who would have ever thought that Ellie would be starting because of his bat? Got a great line. I mean, think about it. There's Ronnie right there, but Tom Herr entered the game batting 206, Magadan 200, Johnson 206, and Elster's batting 333.
With 2 home runs and 7 RBIs. And the curve, a good one. There's that big curveball that Grimsley has. And he has one of the good ones in the league. He hasn't thrown him much in this game because he's been behind the hitters. In the dirt, a wild pitch. Johnson goes over. That's the 8th wild pitch by Grimsley this year, and this is his 4th game and his 18th inning of work.
We talked about it earlier, and you may have missed the modern record, 24 by Jack Clark in 1987. There's the curveball to get to 1 and 2, and now Steve Lake elects to go to another curveball, and look at that one. No way you can get to that curve if you're a catcher.
No chance. A runner at third now with 1 out. The infield is in this time for a play at the plate. And again, he goes to the curve and misses. In the 5th inning, Fregosi played the infield back in a similar situation. Now in the 6th, 1 inning later, he has the infield in, but he has the bottom of the batting order coming up. Slider hit hard. And it's taken by Von Hayes. Tagged at third is Johnson. He comes in and scores. And a good piece of base running by Howard Johnson. You could very easily have been trapped off and not gone back to tag up. Fine job.
I'll tell you, that's an excellent point, Ralph, because your inclination and your leaning is toward home when a ball is hit this hard. You anticipate it being in there, and Von Hayes makes a nice catch. Look at Johnson. His first move is toward home, and now he alertly goes back to third, tags, and scores a run. Superb base running by Johnson.
And Charlie O'Brien hits the next pitch toward short. It's cut off by the third baseman, Charlie Hayes. The throw ends the inning. So for the 2nd inning in a row, the Mets get a run without a base hit. And the score at the end of 5.5 innings, the Mets 2 and the Phillies nothing. Now here's a word from Avis. One hit in the ball game, but they lead by a score of 2-0. We're going to the bottom of the 6th. And it will be Steve Lake, the 8th batter in the batting order, to lead it off for the Phillies. 1 base hit that the Mets have in the game by Ron Darling that didn't figure in the scoring. As Lake steps in, Lake 1 for 1. Single to left field off Darling. And he goes after the first pitch and pops it up. Gilby Brooks in right field puts it away. 1 away. Now we're going to have a pinch hitter for the pitcher. It's going to be recently recalled Jim Lindeman, former St. Louis Cardinal, just brought up from the minor leagues with a change of managers, 2 big changes. Morandini and Lindeman brought up. Lindeman at Scranton Wilkes-Barre hit .275 with 2 home runs and 7 runs batted in 11 games. He has had 2 back operations, both of them on a disc. And the first pitch a ball. The Cardinals gave up on him. He was signed to a AAA contract by the Phillies. And now back in the major leagues, and that one grounded foul, 1-1. Cardinals let him go. He went to Detroit. 1990 was in 12 games with the Tigers, hit .219. Also played at Toledo, where he hit .227 with 12 home runs. Lindeman takes for a ball, 2 balls and 1 strike. Lindeman, St. Louis Cardinals first-round draft in June of 1983. 24th in the nation. He hits a high fly to deep center field. Going back is Coleman. It's way back, and Coleman on the warning track makes the play.
Lindeman, a prized prospect with the St. Louis Cardinals before going to Detroit, but he had those 2 serious back operations, lower back operations. Vince Coleman makes a relatively easy play out of a ball that was hit a long way to right center.
So 2 men away. Mets leading 2-0, and Lenny Dykstra will be the batter. Lenny 1 for 2. And he hits it hard, a base hit to right. It'll be extra bases. Dykstra eases in the second with a double, and he is now 2 for 3.
Now, if Lenny had gotten to second base via an error, he wouldn't be talking. Hitters love to talk to fielders when they get base hits, but if they get on an error, they don't say anything. So Lenny's down there chirping with his old buddy Kevin Elster. He is a colorful guy, I'll tell you.
So Dykstra at second with 2 men out, and Rod Booker the batter. Rod is 0 for 2. Last minute replacement for Dickie Thon at shortstop. And it's a broken back ground ball to first. And Dykstra is left at second. So the score at the end of 6, the Mets 2 and the Phillies nothing. Here's a word from New York Telephone. Joe Baber, the new pitcher for the Phillies. He's 0-1 in the year with a 5.59 ERA. He's worked 9 2/3 innings, given up 12 base hits while walking 10. So he is a member of the Philadelphia Phillies staff for sure. He'll be working to Ron Darling as his first batter, but Darling's going to be out of the game. And as we go to the 7th inning, coming in for the play-by-play once again, Yep. Tim McCarver.
See, I told you knew the words to get a job. We have, as Greg Jeffries comes out to pinch hit for Ron Darling, a good job, speaking of jobs, by Darling tonight. He went 6 innings, giving up 4 hits and no runs, striking out 2 and walking 1. So a good job by Ron Darling. Buddy Harrelson, I think this is a good move. They've hit a lot of balls hard against Darling. It's still a tight ball game. And I think Buddy is going to go to the left-hander, either Doug Simons or Pete Shorrock, as Jeffries takes strike 1. And the palm ball to Jeffries is outside. 1-1 to Greg. Greg with a pull to rib cage muscle. 2-0 Mets here in the 7th. Another palm ball is high. Ball 2. 2 balls and a strike. And on the fourth pitch, first pinch hitting appearance for Jeffries on the season. He flies deep to Dykstra in center field, and that'll bring up Vince Coleman. Between innings, we decided that song, Get a Job by the Silhouettes, there were 8 yeps and 6 booms. I wonder if Imus knew that. Or Lupica. 8 yeps and 6 booms before Get a Job.
Is that official now?
That is official. Coleman, the batter. The Mets haven't had a hit since Ron Darling's double in the second inning, and that has been the only hit of the ball game. They scored 2 runs on no hits in the 5th and 6th. Coleman scoring the first run of the game. High chopper to short. Booker will have to hurry, and he does to get him. 2 outs.
Only one way that he could make that play, and that was to charge it and get it on the high hop.
Because if that ball bounced, Coleman was going to have an infield hit. Mets scored 1 run in the 5th inning, a walk to Coleman, a pass ball. He moved to third on an infield out by Herr, and Dave Magadan drove him in with an infield out. And then Howard Johnson in the 6th walked, stole second, went to third on a wild pitch, and with some brilliant base running, went back on a lot of balls that guys on third would have gone halfway on, tagged up and scored on a sac fly by Kevin Elster. It's 2-0 New York. Change outside, 1-1 to Herr. Usually some Mets fans traveling down from New York. I don't detect that many Mets fans here at the stadium tonight. 2 balls and a strike to Tommy Herr as Tommy Green, the right-hander, up and throwing for Philadelphia.
I usually have a few Let's Go Met chants going about this time.
Outside, 3 balls and a strike to Herr. There's a strike, 3-2 to Tommy. Foul back right below us. Still 3-2 to Tommy Herr. 2-0 New York here in the 7th inning. Ron Darling going 6 innings, giving up 4 hits, no runs, striking out 2 and walking 1. Still 3-2. Fly ball left field. Von Hayes drifting over. And the Mets are retired in order in the 7th. However, on our GE line score, it's 2-0 New York, and we'll return right after this message. From Syracuse are represented with the Mets banner Bunch of folks, they must have heard us down there right below us. Bunch of folks standing up the 7th inning stretch, waving Mets banners our way as Doug Simons replaces Ron Darling, the left-hander from Pepperdine.
Simons 1-0 in the year with an earned run average of 0. He has worked 6 in the 3rd innings, hasn't given up a run, and has allowed just 4 hits. The Mets taking their offense out of the lineup as Ron Darling leaves the ball game. He has the only hit for the Mets, but they lead 2-0.
Replacing their big hitter, huh? How can they do that in a tight ball game? John Kruk now, and obviously the reason you do it is that Phillies have all the left-handers stacked against the Mets. 3 of the next 5 hitters left-handers, and John Kruk on the first pitch grounds to her at second. 1 out on 1 pitch here in the 7th.
And on the Macy's National League scoreboard, the other action in the National League, Pittsburgh leading Montreal 5-2 after 5. St. Louis 1, Chicago nothing after 2. No score, Cincinnati playing in Houston. That's after 2. Later on, Atlanta against the Dodgers and San Diego against San Francisco.
1 out here in the 7th inning, a 2-0 ball game, and Dale Murphy now the batter. Strike 1. We understand that Ron Darling left with mild stiffness in his right shoulder. It's not believed to be serious, so that's why Simons is in there. And the forkball, swing and a miss, 0-2 to Murphy. Right arm went up and the ball came out of the mouth. 1-2 to Murphy.
Well, this is almost a strike. Check the umpire.
This ought to be no pitch.
Whoops.
Fly ball to center field. And Vince Coleman makes the catch. 2 outs here in the 7th inning.
Now checking out the American League scoreboard. Yankees leading Detroit 4-0, and that's after 5.5. Kansas City 6, Cleveland nothing after 5.5. Toronto 1, Boston nothing after 4. Milwaukee 5, Texas 2 after 3. Oakland 4, Minnesota nothing after 3. Baltimore nothing, Chicago nothing after 1. Seattle later against California. Oakland has lost 5 in a row.
Those injuries finally catching up with the Athletics, it appears. Were swept by Seattle for the first time in their 15-year history. Seattle's, that is. 0-2 to Von Hayes.
Seattle lost their first 6 and won their next 7.
Yeah. Von 0 for 1. He struck out in the 5th inning, walked in the 2nd. Ball and 2 strikes to Von Hayes. 2-0 New York here in the bottom of the 7th inning. Forkball is low, 2-2. Take a look at the motion of the intrepid Doug Simons.
Little slingshot type pitcher. Throws that shoulder at you and nothing happens. Change the speeds very, very well. Both he and Shurik have done a good job so far.
Pete Short's first major league save on Sunday night as Hayes gets a piece of it. Von Hayes, his 9th year with the Philadelphia Phillies. It seems like only yesterday when the Phillies sent 5 players to the Cleveland Indians for Hayes' services. Inside, ball 3, 3-2. Inside, he walked it. So Hayes walks. That'll bring Charlie Hayes, the 3rd baseman. Alejandro Pena is warming for the Mets.
Simons made his major league debut against the Phillies back on April the 9th. Was the winning pitcher as he worked 2 innings, gave up no runs on 1 hit. That was the game that Cerrone tied it with a home run in the 9th, and Brooks won it with a home run in the 10th.
So a win in his first major league appearance, and this one outside to Hayes. Ball and no strikes. This one hit deep to left field. Back is McReynolds, and he drops the ball. The relay by Elster is laid at home. It's 2-1. Mets on top as Hayes doubles off the glove of Kevin McReynolds. Instead, he drops the ball. He did appear to have it, and then he had a second shot at it. 2-1 Mets.
This ball hit hard. It's a sinking line drive, and the ball coming down with the top spin. It's in the glove, and then he tries to go after it and can't pick it up before it hits the ground. There it's in the glove, out. Almost catches it there. And on the relay, Ron Hayes scores, and the Phillies get on the board, and they have the tying run at second.
In the person of Charlie Hayes, with Mickey Morandini swinging and missing. It was a nice try by McReynolds, and I would imagine going back on a ball like that, you don't know how to hide a jump because your feet aren't planted, and he actually jumped too high. That ball hit him in the heel of the glove.
Oh, had a lot of overspin and was sinking. Toughest ball to handle in the outfield. Ted Williams used to hit those hard sinkers. With the top part of the ball as you uppercut, and it puts that overspin on the ball, sort of like that forehand that you see so many tennis players use now.
Another swing and a miss by Morandini. A ball and 2 strikes to the Phillies second baseman. A 2-out double by Charlie Hayes after Von Hayes had walked. Gives the Phillies their first run and their 5th hit of the game. Nice play by O'Brien. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Mickey Morandini.
Great mechanics by O'Brien right there. Now watch him just get over there quickly by shifting over in front of it. Keeps that ball right in front of him.
Outside, ball 3. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Morandini. The on-deck batter is Steve Lake. Got him. Fastball right on the outside corner. The first strikeout for Simons. But the Phillies are on the board. 1 hit. It's 2-1. Mets on top after 8. Make that after 7. We'll be back after this from the New York Daily News. Jim Fregosi watches his first game as manager of a National League club. He took over for Nick Leyva this afternoon as Dave Magadan takes ball 1 from Joe Baver. 2-1 Mets lead. Fregosi's right-hand man, Hal Lanier, formerly the manager of the Houston Astros. And I think it's interesting to note that there was not a managerial change this winter. Every manager that managed one of the 26 teams returned this year, and we're going to tell you how unusual that was. Magadan fouls it back 1-2 today. Not since 1945 did a winter go by when no managerial changes occurred in Major League Baseball.
And 45 was a war year.
45, that's right. And
they couldn't make any changes. There weren't anybody around.
Well, you could kind of understand it, and I guess from a sympathetic standpoint, no changes would have been made after the 1945 season as Magadan goes down on strike. So it's been 45 years since a change in the wintertime. Of course, back then there were only 16 teams. Well, it's a 2-1 ball game. Let's see how it happened, as our whiz summary will be forthcoming. Coleman scored without a hit the first run of the game in the top of the 5th, and Howard Johnson did the same thing in the top of the 6th. And then a 2-out double by Charlie Hayes in the bottom of the 7th gave the Phillies their run. So that's our whiz game summary. Nobody beats the whiz. And the Mets are hoping that's the case with them tonight. It's 0-2 to Hubie Brooks.
Last time Hubie faced Joe Baber, he hit a home run in the 10th inning to beat him in a ball game 2-1. And it came off of a high pitch. Not that high, but the one he just swung at, but very high.
Still 0-2 to Hubie. That was in game 2, the game that was tied by a Cerrone homer in the 9th inning. And then won by Hubie Brooks in the 10th inning. Way inside, ball 1, 1-2. Hubie down on strike says his bat goes one way. I guess Hubie goes the same way where the bat went. 2 outs. 5 in a row now, retired by Joe Baber. That is amazing, though. 45 years, at least one change has been made in the major leagues. 45 years in a row during the wintertime. And this the first time since 1945 that hasn't occurred. 13 days, 13 games into the season, the first casualty of the managing ranks, Nick Leyva. 1 ball, no strikes to Howard Johnson. Two and 0. Three balls and no strikes to Howard Johnson, and one would think that he would be given the green light here. The Mets with only 1 hit, but they lead 2-1. We're in the 8th. And Johnson walks. That's the 7th walk issued to Mets hitters in this ball game. And they also had a hit batsman, and Hubie Brooks back in the 3rd. Kevin McReynolds 0 for 3 in this game. And he takes a fastball outside. Kevin now 1 for 24 on the year. There goes Johnson. Fastball is high. The throw is low and got him. I mean, a perfect strike by Steve Lake. Still 2-1 Mets, mid-8th. We're back after this from Metropolitan Life. Lake takes a fastball from Doug Simons in relief of Ron Darling for strike 1. It's a 2-1 Met lead here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Lake 1 for 2 on the evening. Popped up, shallow left field. McReynolds back, and Elster now waves him off. 1 out. This copyrighted telecast is authorized under television rights granted by the New York Mets solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, or use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the New York Mets and Sterling Doubleday Enterprises and WWOR-TV is prohibited. Any commercial or other use of the program, such as by charging admission for its showing, is also prohibited. Ricky Jordan is in there, and he will pinch hit now. for the pitcher, Joe Baber. Baber, a good job. 2 innings of scoreless and hitless ball. Ricky Jordan takes a fastball low and in. Jordan on the year has pinch hit 4 times. He has 1 hit and 1 RBI. Strike on the corner, 1-1. By the way, Darryl Boston has entered the game, and he is in right field. Placing Hubie Brooks. Hubie still nursing that sore left foot. 2 balls and a strike to Ricky Jordan. 2-1 Met lead here in the 8th. Popped up in the infield. Dave Magadan squeezes it, 2 outs. Here's Darryl. Lenny Dykstra now coming up. Dykstra 2 for 3 on the evening. He is single, lined into a double play, and doubled. So he has hit the ball hard 3 times. Magadan on the line. Johnson on the line. And that's proper for a spray hitter like Dykstra. Strike 1. Johnson shallow at third base. You see Magadan there on the line. Johnson shallow at third with 2 outs and nobody on. It's doubtful that Dykstra would be bunting. Ball 1, 1-1. You may have heard the public address announcer in the background. 20,187 here at Veterans Stadium this evening. 4th meeting of the year between these 2 teams as Dykstra fouls one off. The Mets won 2 of 3 at Shea. 2-1, 2-1, and then that bizarre 10-inning, 8-7 game. 4 hours and 51 minutes. The longest 10-inning game in the history of baseball. 4 hours and 51 minutes. What, 24 walks in that game? 15 for the Mets. Grounder toward first. Simon's covering. 3 up, 3 down for the Phillies here in the 8th inning. Still 2-1 Mets after 8. We're back after this from Kellogg's.
Roger McDowell on the mound for the Philadelphia Phillies. The former Mets pitcher comes in with a record of 2 wins and no losses. He has no saves this year. Fine home run average of 0.73. He's worked 12 1/3 innings, given up only 5 hits. Roger McDowell.
Roger and Lynn Dykstra coming over for Juan Samuel a year and a half ago. That's a way to watch the game. With the ears covered. 20,187 on hand. The Mets leading 2-1, and the Mets have 1 hit. That's right, 1 hit. And that a double by Ron Darling back in the 2nd inning. The Phillies have 1 run and 5 hits. Try and figure that out. Here we're in the 9th inning. No balls and 1 strike to the struggling Kevin McReynolds. 1 for 24 on the season. No balls and 2 strikes. It was McDowell in game 2 of the season facing Rick Cerrone in the 9th inning with 1 out and nobody on. And McDowell got a sinker up, and the next time the ball was sinking was over the left center field fence. You and I called it, didn't we, Ralph?
How could he be pitching? How could he be hitting against the right-hand pitcher?
Oh, boy. Ball and 2 strikes to McReynolds.
With Mackey Sasser on deck. That's what makes this such a great game.
Ralph and I talking about it before Cerrone hit the home run, about how Mackey Sasser should have been hitting. And no sooner had we gotten that out of our mouths and Rick Cerrone hits the home run to tie it. I know you're looking at me, you're saying, what do you mean we?
Editorial we. I agree with you on that point. But you know, that's the way baseball is. Bobby Hoffman, remember him, a second baseman, infielder for the Giants, was put up as a pinch hitter against a right-hand pitcher with Dusty Rhodes, who was the hottest pinch hitter in baseball back in the early 50s, on the bench. And Hoffman hit a home run to win the ball game. Leo DeRocher was the manager, and that's the way it is. You play hunch.
Was that 51?
I think it was 51 because Dusty Rhodes, you couldn't get him out as a pinch hitter.
And Leo DeRocher didn't make any mistakes from early August on, right?
Never made one.
14 and a half back. I think it was August 8th or so. 14 and a half back of the Dodgers, and the famous shot heard around the world, Bobby Thompson's home run off Ralph Branca. Unbelievable. 2 balls and no strikes to Kevin Elster, who was 0 for 1. Sacrifice fly in the 6th. He walked in the 4th and grounded back to the pitcher. 2-1 to Kevin.
Great story about that. Branca and Carl Erskine were warming up in the bullpen. And Erskine said the best pitch he ever made in his life was the curveball he bounced in the dirt when the phone call rang. And Sukaforth, who was the bullpen coach, saw the curveball bounce in the dirt. And he said he was given the option, who should I bring in? And he says, well, I think Branca. He's got better control.
I've never heard that story. That's a great story. Erskine bounces one pitch, and that's why Erskine wasn't in there.
He didn't come in, that's right.
Ground ball to third baseman Charlie Hayes. And he throws out Kevin Elster. The Mets loaded the bases with 3 walks in the first inning, and McReynolds flied out. And outside that, they really haven't threatened. The 2 threats, a walk, a pass ball, moving to third on an infield out by Coleman, and he scored on another infield out. And then in the 6th, Howard Johnson walked, stole second, went to third on a wild pitch, and scored on a sacrifice fly. And that has been the scoring for the Mets. 1 hit through 8 2/3 innings. Charlie O'Brien takes strike 1.
Ralph Branca, the youngest pitcher to win 20 ball games for the Dodgers in their history. He won 21 at the age of 21. Ramon Martinez won 20 last year at the age of 22.
Mark Carrion is on deck should O'Brien get on. It's 1-1 to Charlie O'Brien. Ball and 2 strikes to Charlie. I tell you, Ralph Branca has had to have had some strong shoulders to carry around that burden of serving up that pitch to Thompson. Last 30 years, how many times he's had to answer question after question after question. Why'd you throw that pitch?
Because my catcher called it. His catcher was Rube Walker.
Yep. Rube, the ex-pitching coach of the Mets, and a good one. On deck batter that afternoon, Willie Mays. 2 dozen. Still a ball and 2 strikes to Charlie O'Brien. McDowell trying to hold the Mets here in the 9th inning. Line to center, base hit. Only the 2nd hit of this ball game, and Charlie O'Brien delivers with 2 outs, and that's going to send up Mark Carrion. Pinch hitting for Doug Simon. Simon's going 2 innings, giving up 1 hit and 1 run. Remember, folks, it makes good sense to drink responsibly. Know when to say when. A friendly reminder from Budweiser. Carrion 3 for 3 as a pinch hitter with a home run and 2 RBIs. Ball 1.
He is tied for the all-time lead for pinch hit home runs for Mets batters with 6. Tied with Ed Kranepool and Rusty Stott.
Tim Tuffle of the Mets with 5 pinch hit home runs. for his career, and the fastball inside to carry on 2-0.
Career with the Mets, yeah.
Career with the Mets, right.
6 altogether. He had 1 with Minnesota. There's Tuffle.
Low. Ball 3. 3 balls and no strikes to carry on. We'll see if he gets the hit sign here. Maybe. It's inside, ball 4. So carry on walks. That's going to bring up Vince Coleman. We had a sign with the Cardinals. We obviously had a take sign, and the only time we were hitting when the take sign was flashed was 3-0. Think about the logic in that. That was a Joe Schultz innovation. He said everybody with the count 3-0, if a guy's going to pick up a sign, that's the time to do it with the count 3 balls and no strikes, because everybody looks to the third base coach. So if he gives you the take on the 3-0 count, you're hitting. That's the only time you're hitting when you get the take sign.
Good thought.
Ball and no strikes to Vince Coleman.
I wondered what Joe Schultz was doing all the time I was rooming with him. He was thinking baseball.
That's right. I've always thought that was a very clever way to give the hit sign with the count 3 balls and no strikes. 1-1 to Coleman. That's really the only time when the manager, coaches, all the players, everybody looks down toward third. So if you're going to get a take sign, or if you're going to get an indicator or something like that, that's the count you would do it on. Way outside, 2-1 to Vince. The Mets 2 and the Phillies 1 here at Veterans Stadium, the first of 3. Coleman vehemently disagreeing with home plate umpire John McSherry. 2-2.
Big difference between 3-1 and 2-2, and Coleman certainly thought that pitch was out of the strike zone. And it does look like it's way out of the strike zone.
Buddy Harrelson chiming in. Ball did appear to be low, but it's 2-2 to Coleman. 2 on, 2 out. 2-1 Mets here in the top of the 9th. High chopper. Forget this one. Base hit for Coleman. So that loads him up for Tommy Herr. No way you get anybody on a high chopper like that, but if nobody were on, you throw it to second and cut him off.
This is a Miss Saigon here. They got a helicopter in that play, and this would have gone right out of the stage. Well, Baltimore's not too far from here.
About 110 miles. I think that would classify as the Baltimore chop. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Tommy Herr 0 for 3 on the night. Strike on the corner. Now it's Herr's turn to complain. One of the few times where it is Herr's turn to complain is correct English. Fouled away, 0-2 to Tommy. The Mets lead 2-1. They have 3 hits. The Phillies have 5. The Mets had 1 hit. That a double by Ron Darling entering the 9th inning. But in this inning, they have 2 hits and a walk sandwiched in between. The bases are loaded. There are 2 outs. No balls and 2 strikes to Tommy Herr. That was a mistake that McDowell got away with. Still 0-2 to Tommy Herr. Outfield shading Herr around toward the left. Murphy about straight away and right. You see Dykstra toward left center. Infield about straight away and deep. Outside, ball 1. 1-2. 18,000 umpires disagreeing with that last call because 2,000 are Met fans.
It was outside, but after that call on Coleman, you sort of wonder if it's wise to take a pitch that close.
Line drive, left field. Hayes over near the line makes the catch. Tommy Herr hit it well, but Hayes was there shading her around toward left field. So the Phillies defense properly positioned. Still 2-1. Mets over the Phillies. Middle of the 9th. We're back after this from Lexus.
The new pitcher for the Mets. He comes into the game with a record of 0-1. He has 3 saves. And he has an earned run average of 2.08. This is his 5th game of the year. Working 4 1/3 innings, and he'll be working to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th batters as his first 3 here in the 9th, with the Mets leading by a score of 2-1.
Franco trying to save it for Ron Darling, and Randy Reddy will be the pinch hitter for Rod Booker, the shortstop. Fastball is low to Reddy. On the season, Randy's first pinch hitting appearance. He is 7 for 23 as a hitter, and the fastball is low, ball 2. Franco's only loss coming at the hands of the Montreal Expos 9 days ago. There's a strike, 2 balls and a strike to Randy Reddy. 2-1 Mets here in the bottom of the 9th inning. Fouled away, 2-2 to Reddy. Sharply to short. Elster, 1 out. So Reddy hits it hard to short, and Elster gets him. And that'll bring up John Kruk. Now, the way I look at it, you bring Magadan off the line at first base, and you put Johnson on the line at third because you got Kruk against the left-hander. No way Magadan stays on the line, but he's parked over there guarding the first baseline.
Kruk is not a pull hitter. The only pitch he'll pull is a curveball.
And John Franco doesn't throw one. Everything John throws is hard, with the possible exception of his changeup, which he's not going to throw Kruk anyway. You're not going to get beat on your second best pitch by a left-handed hitter if you're a left-handed pitcher. 1-1 to Kruk. Left field and deep, but foul. Ball and 2 strikes. Boston in right field is playing straight away. Now, Kruk did homer off Gooden earlier in the year, but it was a changeup that he pulled down the line. You see Magadan and Boston both out of position there. Magadan should be pushed off the line and Boston toward right center. Ball and 2 strikes to Kruk. Inside, 2-2.
He's never been hit by a pitch ball. The one thing about artificial turf, you want to guard against the 3-base hit, and they come up the alleys. Most of them are in the alley and not down the line.
Especially on the rug, that's right. Fastball is low, 3-2 to Kruk. Grounded up the middle, base hit. So Kruk with a 1-out base hit in the 9th inning. And that's going to bring up Dale Murphy, who is vulnerable to right-handers, but tough against left-handers.
Last year, Murphy hit .311 against left-hand pitching and .214 against right-hand pitching.
I thought Franco wanted a new ball, but he threw it in. As you see, the Mets 6-0 when leading after 6 innings, in large part due to John Franco's 3 saves. That's half of them. Pete Short with his first Major League save on Sunday night. Ball goes one way. The bat goes to second base. 0-1 to Dale Murphy.
Murphy totally fooled on the change of pace. We'll watch that last pitch. He's so far out in front of this that he has to let go of the bat to make contact.
Franco jumping out of the way for good reason. No balls and 1 strike to Murphy. The Mets on top 2-1 here in the bottom of the 9th. Nice play, O'Brien. 1-1 to Murphy.
They've got Murphy moved up closer to the plate. He's much closer than he normally has been. He's been having trouble with pitches that are out and away from him, especially from right-hand pitchers. He's moved in a little closer.
Yeah, it does look like that. Franco, if he and Charlie O'Brien see that, that's the reason Franco came up with that cross-seamer that he uses, that he runs in on the right-handed batters. You're in a game situation here. There's a lot of guts to make that pitch to Murphy. And that's the one he made. He tried to come inside, blocked by O'Brien. 2 balls and a strike to Murphy.
There it is. Down in the dirt, and O'Brien makes a good play. Murphy grounded into 22 double plays last year. He was #1 in the National League. The Mets, of course, are looking for the double play to win the ball game. And off of last year's stats, he got the right man up. At the same time, he's hit a ton of home runs.
Sinker, 2-2.
380 home runs in his Major League career.
And as we said, deadly against left-handed pitching. 311 last year. 2-2 to Murphy. 1 out with Kruk at first. 2-1 Mets here in the 9th. Wide, ball 3. I would expect that Kruk will be running. We'll see.
A strikeout can end up into a double play. You do have Von Hayes, the left-hand batter, coming up next.
If you don't send the runner, ground ball at an infielder, you got a double play.
So let's see how Jim Fregosi plays it in his first game as manager of the Phillies.
Kruk not running, and this one fouled away. We'll do it again. Still 3-2. Milton's line comes into play. They also serve who only stand and wait.
It's tougher to stand and wait than it is to be at balls, I believe.
Kruk not running, and the fastball gets Murphy. Strike 3, 2 outs.
Well, you wonder how Murphy could take the 3-2 fastball right down the middle, but here's the sequence of pitches that got him there. Right here. Pitch off speed down in the dirt. Again, the off-speed pitch down in the dirt. Again, the off-speed pitch down in the dirt, down low. The fastball there that's pulled foul. And now the fastball right down the middle.
You swing and miss it. So many balls out of the strike zone. You're surprised when you get one in the strike zone. And Murphy appeared to just lock there. And Franco gets his first strikeout. He's looking for the 27th out in this game with Kruk at first base and 2 men away. Von Hayes. Ball 1. And Franco charging off the mound. He wanted to know where that one was. Again, McSherry looked like he wanted to go up with the right arm, but he went up with the left arm instead.
He's not giving the low strike at all. And right there, as you pointed out, Tim, the arm starts to come up. Watch his right arm. And then he decides, no, it's too low. See, the arm started up.
Ball and no strikes to Hayes. Ball 2. 2 runs, 3 hits, 1 error for the Mets, 1-6-0 for the Phillies. 2 outs here in the 9th inning. Kruk at first base. Strike 1. 2 balls and a strike to Von Hayes. Hayes has walked twice and scored the only run of the game for the Phillies. Outfield properly very deep to guard against the double. Outside, ball 3. 3-1 to Hayes. There's your outfield alignment. Vince Coleman has lost all voting privileges in this area.
He's out of the district.
Ball 4. So Hayes walks. The potential tying run walks to second in the person of John Kruk. And that's going to bring up Charlie Hayes. Buddy Harrelson on the top step. Charlie Hayes has driven in the only Philly run with a double his last time up. He's 1 for 3. to Charlie Hayes with 2 on, 2 out here in the bottom of the ninth. The Mets up by a run. Left field, and this should do it. McReynolds in a couple of steps, and the Mets win it 2-1. If you were standing watching this game, you were on the top step. If you were seated watching this game, you were on the end of it. 2-3-1 for the Mets, 1-6-0 for the Phillies. The winning pitcher, his 95th career win, Ron Darling. Save for Franco. It was not an easy contest, nor has it been an easy year for the Mets so far. They're 9-5 on the year and win a tough one. I mean a tough one here in Philadelphia. Ralph and I back with a recap and the wrap-up right after this from Budweiser.